All right, welcome everybody. We are doing our last and final study of what to say when you talk to yourself, starting at chapter 22 to the end. So yay.
Woohoo!
Really good stuff here. Really good stuff. I've thought this the entire book, but he says it in this chapter that there's no faster way to convince yourself how anti-productive negative self-talk can be than watching what happens to other people when they do it. So true. So true. And I know we've talked about that probably every week, like that you just so notice it, with other people. And the more you're aware of it in your own life, and yeah.
And he said to quietly observe those around you. And I was like, because I've already been like, oh, so negative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just to
yeah.
quiet and watch, because who you spend your time with most is who you're, what you're wiring in your own brain. So just to be cautious of who you're around and their wiring. And then also social media, you said, or your media or whatever. And just repetition wires. And
yeah,
that made me go, oh geez. I mean, actually evaluate that, because I don't know that I've really, even thought about that.
Yeah.
Deleting people that don't fit.
Right. And we get to choose where that programming is coming from.
Right.
So we really can't blame anybody but ourselves.
I love when he touches here on opinions. So interesting, just really actually that all opinions are programs that have been, downloaded, whether it's what we think or what other people around us have, downloaded, we've picked up from other people.
Yeah.
Observe what other people's self-talk reveals about their opinions, their beliefs, and their attitudes.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly what you guys were just saying, what you just said. Be careful about who we're choosing to as our friends, and to hang around a lot.
Does anybody want to share one of their top 10 list of self-talk that you want to change? Anybody feel comfortable sharing that? It's totally fine if you don't, or
To find it.
Page 188, he was talking about
Oh, I meant my top 10 list.
Yeah. Either I can't, or he gave those examples I can't, or it's just not my day, or yeah. I have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. It's funny because I've had seasons, and this is when I was reading this, I was just like, oh my goodness. I've been able to have consistent, no problem getting out of bed. Was it easy? Not necessarily, but I did it every single day. And then I have seasons where it's the opposite. And I'm just I think that's all it is. It's literally just what you're even telling yourself before you go to bed that night before is I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to get up in the morning. It's no problem. It's as simple as that. But sometimes I go to bed thinking oh, I have to get up in the morning. You know what I mean? And it's that negative, and it affects how I get up in the morning. So I don't know. That's just one example, but
yeah, that's good. And that's he's talking about putting yourself in control. That's exactly what he's talking about here.
Exactly.
You're aware of it. So he's once you're aware of it, you get to set the course for it, but he's like, creating the thoughts that determine the direction of your own future is this is so cool, the most personal responsibility you'll ever have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
So he says, choose for yourself. You know, what's that programming going to be? So I love that, Amy.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you've like literally experienced the difference.
Yes, it's crazy. And same with exercise. I can pretty much put anything in there, and we probably all can, you know, like looking back to a place where you were successful or just doing something well. What was the secret sauce that you were doing that? You know, it's just because you literally believe you can, and you're your own coach. And yeah, but it isn't always easy, and that's the thing sometimes. And then we just slip back into it's just hard.
It's inaction. It's like and it's just really an inaction even, because sometimes I find like I'm reading through these last 3 chapters and not even an issue of like, oh, I'm like totally producing negative self-talk, but like I'm not certainly taking action, like in directing myself in these things. On page 190, example 6. So he's giving like these different examples for like, right, how to change around some negative thoughts. And the negative thought was, I'd like to put more money into savings, but I just don't seem to be able to. And like he turns it around. I am good at earning what I need and more. I'm good at saving money every month without fail. I put something aside. Like on, and then he goes on and on and on. Like I just love that. And Ashley, I loved how you like really worked through and shared that with us in a group today. That was just so detailed and so good, how you really spoke into like so many places of your life.
That was the first time that it's ever been detailed.
Yeah.
Minds. And so I was like, how the heck does he even think about this stuff? Like I couldn't elaborate it that much.
Yeah. It was so helpful. So helpful. So I need to sit down and do my top 10. I haven't done this yet. And then really take time to write into it.
I haven't like written out I just wrote the top 10 negatives and I didn't do the positives yet.
Yeah.
But like for my examples, I guess more of like my surfacey ones, is just like saying like my life or home is crazy or wild. And like, I mean that in the best way sometimes about like my kids and stuff, but because like I love it. I love that they're crazy and fun and wild, but like sometimes it is just like, it's just negative. Or saying like, thinking, oh, I want to get my old body back. Pre-baby body, you know, things like that. So
yeah, tell your subconscious what you wanted to do. Keep telling it. That will lead to a plan to do it, and the plan will lead to taking action. The results might not come overnight, but they will come. That's really what we're doing anyway. You know, when you think about it, we're really just doing that anyway, but it's just easier to be doing it in a negative way. You know, that's really what it is. It's like, this isn't like new. This isn't like wishy-washy, tell your subconscious what to do and it'll do it. Well, you're doing that anyway. Like, that's why you're not succeeding in fill in the blank or whatever, you know, like that's why you know, when we say like, why is that person doing, well, that's because it's like this constant training. We're training ourselves all the time. We've never arrived. And that's why I think when you become aware of something, you open such a huge opportunity to grow and change. And it's not because, you know, you're horrible the way you are right now. Like, change doesn't necessarily mean that everything's wrong. It just means there's room for more growth. And So, yeah.
Well, and that kind of touches on him going into chapter 23 and talking about, is it stasis?
Mm-hmm.
That position where you're like between where you've been to like the unlimited, like where you can go.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
that it's just holds you right there, like in like a lock, frozen place of,
mm-hmm.
and he says that he named that as like our ultimate enemy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was so good. I have that whole paragraph highlighted because it doesn't matter like how much enthusiasm you have or like, yes, I'm gonna do it. Like if your past programming, it wants you to stay where you are, and so like it's crazy. It's like literally like mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Because they're stronger. The old programs are stronger than your new goal to move forward. Like your goal is kind of like this. I picture it as like this fresh little leaf that's popping up, and like there's something a lot stronger. Like no, sorry, don't want you to go that direction. And it's capable of popping up, if it like is determined and keeps like looking at the right, looking up and being like, no, I got this, I can do this, I can grow, I can do this, but if it's like, oh, really? Okay,
Not likely.
yeah.
Because that's what stasis is. It like he goes through a list of like what it looks like. Yeah, it's so interesting. Lowers our self-esteem, drains our energy, affects our health. It brings a guilty feeling, keeps us off focus, justifies doing nothing, stops you from setting new goals, makes inaction a habit, reinforces negative programs, which then causes us to fail. So interesting. And then he delves into this whole part about, which is so fascinating to me. I'd really love to know more about this man. But he talks about our spirit, right? And he's like, perhaps the biggest problem of all is that living in stasis robs you of your spirit, the wonderful greater part of you that sees the better you and whose job is to take you to your greatest heights. So interesting.
So it is very interesting. You think about like, what am I losing out on? Like, not even just me, but like everyone in my world, like what, like each of us, what are other people losing out on because we have lost that spirit, so to speak, because we are allowing ourselves to stay in this stasis, like looking at what we could do, looking at that possibility, but then like just, oh, it's crazy. It's very sobering to me. I don't know.
It is sobering, yeah. And it's exciting actually, like to realize kind of some of the science that they're learning behind all these things. But I'm kind of pushing all the way now into 24 because yeah, like where was it? He like then so it's like that whole thing, to be or not to be, right? Would you like to make a change? If we want to make any important change in our beliefs, attitudes, emotions, behaviors, actions, or results, we should, at the onset, decide who is in command and who or what is in control of the changes that take place, right? It's the whole thing of taking responsibility again.
I think those questions that are italicized in like on the first page were just like,
yes,
so good. And then I changed it to like, am I? Because it's so personal, right?
Mhm.
But are we getting anywhere or aren't we? Are we getting by or are we doing the best that we can?
Right.
Are we doing what we want to do or would we like to do something else, something better? And I just feel like anytime you want to do that, you know, you kind of have like a peanut gallery. If you know, like Brené Brown's thing on Netflix too, just like when you get in the ring, everyone that's sitting on the side is gonna like throw peanuts at you. But yeah, I thought that was so good and so challenging to like the status quo life that at least I've seen and like been told basically to aspire to. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. He says that, oh my gosh, okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna like go off here.
No,
but
please do.
203 into 204 was like, and the way that he worded things were so beautiful. So he says,
yeah.
Okay, let me find this.
I know that's actually what I've been hunting for. That last thing I read wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I think you're going to hit what I'm looking for here.
I'm trying to figure out where to even start. So he's talking about outside influences, which is like, you know, okay, the things that happen to us, relatives, basically, like everything outside of us, peer pressures, like advertising, newspapers, close friends, like basically everything that is super important actually in our life, right? They're still outside influences. And then he says it's strange for these influences, that these influences should shape most of our lives for us, and yet they do. They are not all bad or contrary, of course. Some of them are necessary and worthwhile. Some of these influences, a few of them, are the best kind we can ever hope to find. But taken as a group, these everyday influences in our lives are seldom the notes on which great symphonies are played. More often they are dirges, plainly written tunes, written in the key of average, with a slowly meandering, discordant melody leading to something less than the rising crescendo of great finales we had hoped for, never once demanding or creating the lasting and beautiful orchestration of a life well lived. And I just thought that paragraph was like so beautiful. And then he says the conditioning of daily living somehow convinces us that mankind's greatest need, social survival, is also each person's greatest achievement.
Yeah, and then the next paragraph, keep going, because this is what I was getting to.
The result is that we slowly, unknowingly change not to achieve, but to survive in a way that offers us that acceptance of others. We get by. We do what we must. We do as well as we can, get along with others as well as possible, play our roles, do our jobs, put a little away for the future, and hope for the best. The dreams we dreamed as children, we no longer, we learn to no longer believe. And I was like, oh, so true. Should I just finish this little section? That is the tune we are taught to play. Instead of believing, knowing that each of us is an entire orchestra, we are led to believe that we are only the flute. We listen to the idle gossip of a friend, follow the lead of so-called leaders, fit our lives into a mold that was not of our making, tuck our dreams in our pockets, and hope for better things to come. And so we are changed by the lives we live. For most of us, it is seldom the calamitous change of catastrophic events. It is the slow, sure change of environment, the change forced upon us by the world around us. What we become a part of becomes a part of us. What we perceive and what we accept are important parts of what we too will become. And I just thought that whole section was like, whoa. Like really, really, really challenged me. And it's like, in the last chapter of the book, and I was like, why did I not get this throughout like the whole thing? But the way that he just worded it in that section was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like literally life changing. Like, this is crazy.
Awesome. So good.
Well, and that's how like our Heavenly Father sees us. And that's how he created us to be, is the full orchestra, not just the flute. And it's the things of this world and the things that are opposite of him that really kind of wear down and like, right, have that other software downloading, that all of a sudden we become like, we get by, we do what we must, we do as well as we can, get along with others as well as possible. Like, right? Like that's not who we are. That's not that's not his creation.
Because if the enemy can get us to play small and just to like fit in and make, and not live up to our full potential.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I liked how he also said, if you learn how to think and what you think, you will put yourself back in control.
Yeah. What page is that? Do you know, Amy?
205.
Okay.
Right before the final difference.
Mm-hmm.
And how he says temporary success is fine, but something that turns temporary success into a permanent way of life makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm.
Living each day in a more successful way is what each of us somewhere within us would like to achieve. And we're overcome with quick solutions and overnight fixes. But like, we really need that permanent, way of life, this way of becoming aware of how we're thinking, because if we can become aware of that, then we can change how we're thinking. And that in and of itself is really just, there's so much scripture that backs that up, and when you just like sit and think on that.
Honestly, like taking our thoughts captive just keeps like so strongly right now, because like when we do that, it's so interesting, because he then says, like, this is really moving to like the last page, 207. The adversary has always been us. Like, and that is really when we are growing in our relationship with the Lord, honestly, even more than our enemy, Satan, is ourself. Is like just as much our enemy. And, I just love like how, again, the neuroscience and the science is matching up, and it's catching up with our almighty living God's, roadmap, guiding us and teaching us these principles too. It just has been so encouraging. So the thoughts that we have thought have been really the things that are, it is our own thinking that has created the limited self-portraits of who we believe ourselves to be. It's up to us what we think. Like, boom, it's up to us what we think.
Yeah.
And then he's so sweet, isn't his? I thought he was very, very like kind of tender and father-like at the end here. Talk to yourself in a way that is kind, loving, caring, strong, demanding, and determined. Right? Talk to yourself in the right way every day.
Yeah. And it's a gift. Yeah. So good. Well,
that's awesome.
That concludes what to say when you talk to yourself.
Yay!
Begins, right?
Are you guys that are on like daily saying, like purposing a list of things that you're saying to each other? Have you been doing that, Amy, again?
Almost every day, but it's still that reprogramming of and remembering, right? It's even just like the remembering of it sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you mean to ourselves or to like you said to each other?
No, I'm sorry, to ourselves, like having a list of things. It may not be as we've gone through the book, right? It's become pretty detail oriented, but like I know, like I've been working to be faithful every day to say a list of things that, like he ended with, talking to myself kindly, saying things that are true. And how about you, Lisa? Have you been doing that?
I haven't.
You have not?
No, I've been failing miserably at that.
Oh no. Yeah, we have got to start. John, have you picked up any of that?
I'm still on chapter 2.
Okay, so you're going to come up with your things soon enough that you're going to say daily positive affirmations.
I think it definitely makes you aware of the things that you're saying to yourself. But like Amy said, it just is this has been a lifelong habit of mine. And so, and I think that right now it's like I'm just in a really hard spot, and I just need to like turn that around. Like I have to do it with the way that I'm thinking about things. Like when you posted the other day just saying, we're just giving the eyes to see today and the ears to see today. Like, oh yeah. Like I've been praying for all of these things, or what's right here, and saying those out loud. And like, I'm not as, I don't know, it's not as bad as I sometimes think that it is. Like I just get in my own head, but this is encouraging me to like just stop myself and say it out loud. Like say something different out loud that's the truth instead of the lies that I've been telling myself. Like, so it's, while I say I've been failing miserably at it, there are times that I'm aware so much more of what I'm saying to myself.
Yes. Good.
Which is huge. And so many people aren't even aware of that, like they have no idea that what they're saying is destructive or negative. And if you don't know, then you're never going to change something. And I think that's even what he talks about with the the stasis, like, so you're kind of like stuck in this like in between. Okay, so I know
what was right. What was, what could be.
right. And I think that's pretty much where we all are having read this book, because we're very aware now. And that's, again, like more than a lot of people. And so, again, what are you going to do with that then? And that's when nobody but you can tell you what to do and come on, and so
we have to think.
The 3 things that he says, like how to avoid the stasis, and it's to write a goal to set positive self-talk permanently in yourself, because if you don't write it, it's like less than 10% chance of coming to life, and if it's written, it's like 85%. So writing it down is actually super important. The second, he says, listen to self-talk sessions, a minimum of 15 minutes a day. And then the third thing was write a list of old negative self-talk you'd like to change, and like bring awareness to it and focus on it. And then
and the 15,
and then probably write it down.
And the 15 minutes of listening, he even encourages to do it like while you're doing something else. So like just have it in the background.
That's good. Thank you for remembering that.
Jenny, you're on here real quick. I don't know if she's in a place that you can unmute and share, but I guess we'll just wait and see. Have you been using any of these things daily? I saw you on here. I just wanted to make sure I gave you a chance to hear you. All right. She might be driving. I have no idea, but love you, Jen.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much, and wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.
Enjoy, everyone. Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
Bye.